March is Women's History Month, and we're discussing the impact women have had on Joplin's history. Thanks for joining us. This is Newsmakers. Joining me now is Marianne Phillips with Historic Murphysburg Preservation Incorporated. It's a nonprofit group. And speaking of women important to Joplin's history, Marianne, you helped bring about the Joplin Recycling Center. You were the first.
Back in 2000, only because my boss said we're going to do it.
Yeah.
And we started a recycling center, and then I started slowly taking household hazardous waste and electronics and just kept growing. It was pretty exciting to be, the mother.
Yeah, basically.
The founding mother of some of this stuff.
That's incredible. And you said you were one of the only women in the department head area? Or
in Public Works,
right.
We had division heads. And for a long time, I was the only woman. We did have two at one point. Janice ran the metro area public transit system. But then when she retired, they replaced her with a man. So yeah, at staff meetings, I was the only female around there, and I admit I could not talk about hunting and fishing and stock car racing as much as they would have liked.
Right.
But I held my own.
Well, I think it's impressive, and to pave the way for women in Joplin's history, I think it's awesome.
Thank you.
So your group collaborated with another to create this coloring book on women who have made their mark in Joplin's history. Talk about that collaboration.
Well, we went together with, we always wanted to do something every March. We tried to think, what can we do for Women's History Month? And it was kind of a struggle. And then we collaborated with Visit Joplin, which is former Convention Visitors Bureau. And then, of course, the Post Art Library, which is a part, they're housed inside the Joplin Public Library. And they know all about all the history. And so it was not that hard to come up with names of women, but only because, our grandparents had talked about them, or we saw little snippets here and there, but actually coming up with all the actual history documented, not just folklore.
Right.
Well, it was not easy.
Not just what you find on the internet.
That too, yeah.
And so Historic Murphysburg Preservation Incorporated, a big part of what you guys are doing right now is the Olivia Apartments. That's has been a big goal for
struggle,
you all.
Yes.
And it was it caught fire in December, and then there's bad news, good news, and now there's good news. Tell us what the new good news is.
Well, the good news is the group that bought it, Bywater, they aren't really specializing in high-rise vintage apartments, but they subcontracted with a local company, Jeff Neal's company. And so he's in there already. He's taken the ivy off of the building. They're getting all the trash out. I did get to tour it after the fire, and it was so sad. You could see encampments, people's mattresses and their trash all in there. And even though we all kept an eye on it,
Sure.
you can't watch it 24/7,
Right.
and there weren't security cameras, or trip lights or anything, and so it's been a struggle for years to try to get all the different owners to secure it and keep the graffiti off of it and keep the vandals out of it. But I think now we finally have a good team.
And there's a grant, right? They got grant money to help.
No, that was the previous one.
$250,000. Oh.
Yeah, I'm sorry, I said Bywater. I meant Bycoda.
Oh, okay.
And Bywater was hoping to get the money from the state for low-income senior housing, but they didn't get it.
Oh.
And so then this group has stepped in, and they're going to do it with market rate. But they will, however, be able to go after historic tax credits, both federal and state.
Oh, and that should help.
Oh, yes. In fact, it almost probably nobody would do it if they didn't have help somewhere.
Right. What other big projects are coming up, or are you all working on?
Well, we've got our 150th anniversary coming up of Murphysburg, and it's kind of confusing because we're 2 years before City of Joplin. And so we're going to make a big to-do about that. It's hard to plan because of COVID and big gatherings, but it'll be outdoors, and it'll be either the end of August or September. We'll have probably block off a couple streets and have maybe a beer garden and a wine tasting, because we've got the German and we've got the Irish blood in there. And I'm working on fireworks. We'll see what happens. And then we're going to put people in the middle of the street and spell out 150 with people, and get a photographer, aerial or a drone or whatever to take our picture. And we just got a lot of fun things, hoping to celebrate our 150th anniversary.
That'd be pretty cool. Yeah, there was some drone footage I saw on, it was probably YouTube or on the internet, of the Olivia Apartments after the fire destroyed it. And
Gives you a whole different perspective on things.
Oh, yeah. Pretty sad.
Yeah.
But, things are looking up. Hopefully it'll get done soon.
I hope so. Like I said, they are working on it right now. You can go by and see changes every day.
That's great. Well, thank you, Mary Ann, for joining us. Coming up next, we're going to talk with another member of the Historic Murphysburg Preservation Incorporated group, and they'll talk more about how women have helped shape Joplin's history. We'll be right back. Hi, welcome to this special production by Southern Broadcasters Club. This is about Women's History Month, and we thought we'd get a discussion going with women on Missouri Southern's campus about a multitude of ideas and subjects that celebrate women's empowerment. And joining me now is our panel of female influencers on Missouri Southern's campus. And we'll just throw out the first question. Who is it, a woman in your life, alive or dead, or an historical figure that has inspired you, and why?
So I feel like a lot of women daily inspire me, so it's kind of difficult to choose just one specific woman. But if I were to choose, it would be a very close tie between my mother and my sister. But I'm gonna go with my sister, my older sister actually, and she's I've throughout my childhood I've seen her grow up, and she's really been like a second mother figure to me because I come from Dallas. So coming to Missouri Southern was like a complete culture shock and like city life versus small town life. It's kind of like a shocker, but she'll really help me, guide me through the whole entire process. And she's honestly one of the strongest women I've met. I've seen her grow up, and she's had multiple challenges, obstacles come into her way, and every time I've just seen her push through them and just become so much stronger. And I aspire to be someone like her. She's so adaptable, and I feel like she could do anything if she really wanted to.
Jack of all trades.
Exactly. She puts her mind to something.
Or Jill of all trades, if you will.
She does anything she wants. She's just she is the person I want to be in the future type deal. And of course my mom is too. But I feel like my sister is more of a go-getter.
So kind of similar to you, my mom and my sister are both really big inspirations because they've both been able to establish pretty good careers. My mom's a retired teacher, and my sister is a nurse, and she has 3 kids. But just being able to be that example of, being a woman, you can still be wife and mom and still be able to pursue your dreams and establish a good career. Kind of like how on a local level, that's my mom and my sister, and kind of on higher up level, I would probably say that whenever Supreme Court Justice, Amy Coney Barrett was accepting her nomination, she walked up holding up one of her kids' hands. So I really love anything that helps establish, you can still, have your personal love life, you can still have children and a family, but you can also pursue more of your dreams and still be considered successful.
Yeah, because for the longest time, and it still is part of the glass ceiling, there's not ever been a woman president in America. And I did some research before, coming on here, and there's only been about 29% of all of the world's countries, only 29% have had a woman leader, and America's not one of them. Still, as hard as I want it to be, something that is not a monumentous thing, something that's just a regular occurrence. How do you feel about having a woman as vice president? It's pretty monumental.
Oh, it's awesome. I remember, the day that it happened, it meant so much to me just because, not only was she the first female, but she looked like me.
Oh, yeah.
Someone that I could, relate to. And that meant so much to me. I remember whenever Obama became president and Michelle Obama was our first lady, it just let me know that, I can do anything. She, was a big symbol for me. With her looking like me, she just basically was embodied that I can do it. You know what I mean? I've never, for one, never saw a female you know what I mean, especially for Harris in that position, let alone a female that looked like me. And I think that was very encouraging for a lot of my siblings and family members. I remember that day. My family was just very excited and happy.
And Maureen, you're a professor. Do you have a family?
I'm not married.
Oh, okay. But you have, a full life, but you still have to go to work, and like so many women in this pandemic, especially, they've had to make that choice of career or home life. And when kids couldn't go to school, usually it was the mom. And the statistics have been, pretty glaring that women's in the workforce has been so badly reduced because of the pandemic. For whatever reason, their jobs were eliminated. Their frontline workers, like hotels, restaurants. How is that? How do you feel about that?
Yeah, I mean, it is tradition in our country to have women really take the burden of having kids, raising a family, the cooking, the cleaning, all of that. But that's fairly outdated. It is something, if a woman wants to take that role, fabulous. Like, that's great, phenomenal. But it is such a much more wide open culture now that you can really choose what you want to do. You can have a career and kids. You don't have to have kids. You don't have to have that pressure. You can be single and just like happy and sassy your whole life. Like, it is much more common that is something that you can do now. And it is unfortunate that because of this pandemic, a lot of women have really been forced into a corner and had to choose. Are they going to take care of their kids, or are they going to continue their career? So I would hope that maybe this pandemic sheds some light on some of those underlying issues, and that women feel a little bit more free to, have it all, to have the life that they want.
To make that choice, yeah.
I feel like we've progressed beyond the need of having to be like, okay, you stay home, take care of the kids. Like, I know, I've heard, I don't really know, but like I've heard of a lot of males who want to like stay home and do that. Like, it shouldn't have to be like a gender role. I feel like we need to move away from that stigma.
And another one of the topics is, what are some of your hopes for the next generation of women? So, like, I have a granddaughter. I know that dates me, but I want her to be able to do whatever she wants. She can be loud and proud. She can be quiet if she wants. She can do anything. And my daughters-in-laws, I want them to be strong for their daughters and teach them. Do you feel like there's anything in particular you're looking at for what you want the next generation?
I mean, I feel like even with our generation, I feel like we've started to become very unapologetic. We love to voice our opinions. And of course, not everyone. Some people like to just sit off to the sidelines and like listen and all that. But I feel like both are necessary in like any discussion. You need people listening, you need people talking, and also knowing like when to be a leader and when to be a follower type of deal, because both are very essential. But I think some traits would definitely be just like embracing who you are. You don't have to live up to society's like expectations. It's okay to be what you want to be, who you want to be, and you don't have to. Just do you, really. I think that's what I want to say for the future generations.
I would like for especially like my future children, to feel comfortable in doing what they feel is right for them. Like, if they want to be a stay-at-home mom, I mean, I want to encourage that. Like, that's amazing. But if they want to be an independent woman, not that you can't be an independent woman being a stay-at-home mom, because you can. But if they want to go out into the workforce and take it by storm, I want them to do that. I want them to look at them as equally both important.
Right.
Because they are.
Right.
Yeah, like, not one is more important. Like, if she's out there, CEO, like, that is amazing, but does not make her more important than the woman who chose to stay home and be the best mother or grandma that she could be. They're both important. I want people to see that and her feel that truly. Feel fulfilled whichever like route she decides to take.
Yeah, I know several women who stay at home and take care of their kids, and I think that they deserve like a million awards. Mother of the Year, Wife of the Year, Homemaker, Boss. They lead their households, but it takes really, a special talent. Like, I think about teachers, it takes a special talent to be able to stay at home. A strength that I didn't have. I told my son several times he's lucky that I was able to work outside the home.
Yeah, and like what you said earlier about how, whether you're CEO or doing any sort of other job like a stay-at-home mom, that I'm really hoping that we increase more because we're so good about it now. I won't discredit that, but the more examples that we have and the more accepting that people become of, oh, well, you don't have to be like this shining star over here who's broadcasted everywhere. Like, you can still be stay-at-home mom, because, you know, having more examples like that we can follow, I think that's stronger than anything that we could ever say or think. Like, the more that we do and the more that we're like, oh, no, you can follow this career if you want. You don't have to do this just because your mom did it. You can do this because you have a different skill set. Like, for example, I'm more of a writer and my younger sister is more of an artist. And whenever we tell people that, people are usually pretty good about not initially being like, oh, well, this one's going to make more money or this one's better at this. We always get, oh, well, you guys could write a book. Like, you could write it and she could illustrate it. Yeah, it's just a lot of like really enforcing, oh, well, we're all different and everyone has different strengths and weaknesses. Just because you have a weakness doesn't mean that you're weak overall, because we're all strong somewhere and weak in another place. But it's whenever we're able to connect and say, no, we're all valuable. Like, we all have our own powers. That's whenever we're the strongest.
I think it would be awesome, especially for future generations, for women to feel more comfortable to pursue careers that aren't typically women dominant, like they're women
Right.
really in it, you know, because I feel like whenever I started school and I was trying to pick a degree, there were certain degrees that I didn't even think about, because I was like, well, usually women are in that field, so you know what I mean? And I think it'd be great to normalize like women literally being able to do and pursue what they feel called to do.
Exactly. Right. I think one of the big takeaways that I'm hearing is for women to be able to be like free and powerful and unjudged. And one of my big hopes for like anybody, regardless of gender, hopefully, you know, coming after us, is that they can just feel like safe and comfortable and free all the time, regardless of their gender. So as an independent person, I do a lot of things by myself. I go hiking, I go camping, I love the outdoors. And I would love it if I ever had kids or younger generations could do those things and not have to be like, okay, where's like the switchblade and there's the pepper spray and I've texted a friend and I've called my mom and they know where I'm going. Like, this is ridiculous. Like, I'm more afraid of being attacked by a person than by like the bears and the cougars and the rabbit animals. Like, that's just terrible. So if we could have like more freedom to just do what we want without like the scary factors coming into play, that would be fantastic.
And I think many people, well, of course women know, but like on a daily basis, I don't think men really know how much of like women live in fear. Like, can I go out this late at night? Am I okay to? Like, do I need to phone a friend on my walk home? And I feel like we obviously need to do these things to be safe, but I feel like we shouldn't have to.
Oh, I agree. I mean, my husband literally won't let me go to like Walmart or out like past 10. He's like, I'll go with you or I'll just go.
Right.
And he's like, I'm sorry. But you know what I mean? That's like a limitation on me. Like, you know what I mean? I can't go, like, which, I mean, it's not like I can't go, but he'd prefer me not to.
Sure.
It's really a conversation that needs to be more openly talked about. I feel like when, like, unfortunately, some situations that do occur, happen, the blame is almost always initially placed on the woman, and I feel like victim blaming is
Like, you were at Walmart too late.
Like, why were you out?
Why were you out by yourself? Yeah.
well, why can't I be out late by myself? Like,
Well, and with social media, you know, all those scary things that go around half the time aren't true, but it scares people enough. Like, don't go to the mall. Look under your car. They're going to come out. You know, what do you think social media, Dr. Whelan, especially?
And it used to be, I think, really fun, really calm, like a very chill space. But nowadays, the comment sections and like the crazy news that goes around and the untruths or whatever you want to call it, that just is circling around, makes people like just go crazy. Like they're fearful of each other. We've gotten so separated into different groups. Women are getting attacked about their looks, like if they don't do their makeup okay, or if their hair is wonky and they go on YouTube, all of a sudden people are ripping them apart. So I think there are good reasons for social media to exist, and I love sharing photos of my cat and like all that stuff. But there's definitely a dark side to it and some negative consequences for just being on it.
Yeah. And what are some important issues that you feel aren't talked about enough?
I think unequal pay is still, like, I can't believe that's still
It's on my list.
to talk about, but we still need to talk about that. And then also just putting some of the the burden of like the whole conversation about reproduction onto men, not their opinion so much, because we have a lot of that, but to put the burden onto them and have conversations that look more like that and less of like, let's only talk about women in this situation.
I think that having more positive messages and more body positivity and being like, it's okay, like to be who you are, how you look, what you do, is also a conversation, and it needs to start being more. And I've seen it happen a lot on TikTok recently, like a lot of more body positivity, like this is the day in the life of a mother, this is what we actually do, this is how we look, this is what we gotta deal with type deal. Like, it's not always just cute babies and rainbows, it's like serious stuff, I guess.
I think that it's important to really reinforce that at a younger age as well, because I've overheard in the past couple of years, I've overheard a conversation of an older girl talking to someone just a few years younger than her, legitimately talking about, oh, well, I don't know if I should finish all my food because I want to be skinny. And I'm like, why is this still a thing? But, I mean, I know it's not the easiest to talk about such heavy topics per se with a younger crowd, but if we could find some way to kind of try to implement that and more positivity and be like, no, you're beautiful, you're strong, and you don't have to, like, eat a cracker every day. But the more that we can incorporate that, like, the stronger we'll be.
I just really don't know why we still have hate going around in this world. It needs to stop. But that's going to take a lot of time and a lot of steps to get to that place.
Well, ladies, I'd like to thank you for joining us on these topics of Women's History Month and things that make us feel empowered. And I'd like to thank Deja Kelly, Bethany Roberts, Insia Mustafa, and Dr. Maureen Wieland. And I'm Bobbie Pottorff with KGCS. Thanks for joining us. This is a special Women's History produced by Southern Broadcasters Club. Thanks for joining us. With us now is Jill Sullivan, Director of the Post Art Library. And are you a member of Historic Murphysburg?
I am, yes.
Okay. And your group collaborated with Historic Murphysburg to create this coloring book talking about women in Joplin's history who helped shape it. Tell me a little bit about, one of the, or I guess a few of them, the ladies in the book, Melissa Cuther?
Yes. Okay. Well, Melissa Cuther, she moved to Joplin in 1905 to teach at Lincoln School, which historically was Joplin's only school for the Black community. And prior to coming here, she actually was a singer. She was a vocalist for Blind Boone, who is a native Missourian, who's a famous jazz pianist and musician. She even wrote a book about him. And then when she came here, she became a very well-respected teacher at Lincoln and also a very well-respected active member in the Joplin community, both in the Black community and the community at large.
Yeah, so she paved the way for not just women, but Black women in particular.
Right. She started the first local African-American Girl Scout troop. So, and she did that, and at the same time she was doing that, she was instrumental in George Washington Carver becoming a national monument. She also helped establish Ewart Park. She established the first daycare for Black families in the area. So she really contributed a lot to the community.
Because it was still segregated back then, correct?
Yes.
That's really interesting. And another important figure that I mean some people don't know, and I didn't know about, was Elizabeth Post. Tell me why she was called the Grand Dame of our community.
Well, she was very involved in arts and culture, and that's actually why we are called Post Art Library. She is one of the benefactors. She and her husband started the Post Foundation. And she also helped to start Spiva Center for the Arts and the Joplin Historical Society. She was involved in historic preservation. She was very passionate and enthusiastic about arts and culture. And so she worked, in fact, with many of the other women in this book to bring arts and culture to Joplin and to make sure that people had access.
Yeah, I noticed that a number of the women mentioned in here weren't just suffragists, but they were also, they brought Joplin Little Theater, and museums. Speaking of museum, the Dorothea B. Hoover.
Right.
She's one of the ladies in the book.
She is. She was actually the first president of the Joplin Historical Society. Not the first woman president, the first president of the Joplin Historical Society.
That's really important.
She was a driving force behind that starting, and she was also involved in historic preservation. She, along with Elizabeth Post and Mary Curtis Wharton, were involved with getting our Lewis Curtis building, which is the Union Depot, in the National Register, and it's our first building to be in the National Register of Historic Places.
And that helped, I guess, with like Historic Murphysburg Preservation. It's all kind of
It's all
the same-
connected.
Yeah.
It's kind of, they laid the groundwork for us to be able to do the type of work we do today with historic preservation.
That's incredible. And, you know, so many of them were instrumental. Tell us where we can find, like, this coloring book as well. Are they published? Is it online?
So the coloring book, you could pick up a physical copy at the library, at the museum. I know that Murphysburg, anytime there's an event, those are available. They're at various locations throughout town, at Spiva, and then also some different coffee shops we've given some to. Joplin Empire Market is another place, but it's also available for free by download at postartlibrary.org.
You know, I think I have a granddaughter, and I think she loves coloring, but it'd be a good time to tell her, you know, how important women were and how important she could be.
Right. And there were so many women we wanted to include. We have an amazing list, ideas for the future, and we're hoping that this coloring book is the first of what becomes a series about Joplin, not necessarily as it relates to women's history, but as it relates to Joplin in general.
That's really incredible. Thanks so much for joining us.
Yes, thank you for having me.
We'd like to thank Marianne Phillips and Jill Sullivan, both with the Historic Murphysburg Preservation Incorporated, as well as Post Art Library. You're watching Newsmakers on KGCS TV from the Ruth Copeland Studios here at Missouri Southern State University. We'll see you again soon.